Hello, how are you? I'm so glad you're here. So, this is the third video. I hope you've had a good week since we last caught up. And today I'm going to talk a wee bit about what we can do in those moments when things are just getting a wee bit too much. So, you might remember from the last video, I'd had a bit of a week of minor irritations for everything was starting to build up on each other. So, what can we do in those moments when things are getting a bit like that? And anyone who knows me, has worked with me, will know that I'm all about the breathing and taking the breath is always the first thing to do. Now, often when we talk about, people will say, oh, take a deep breath and, calm yourself down, take a deep breath. And yes, it is about taking a deep breath, but actually the most important bit about the breath in terms of calming things is breathing out rather than breathing in. Because often people say, come on, take a deep breath, you're fine. We do this. And the breath keeps coming up and up and up and up and up. And actually it's the exhale that does the calming job, not the breathing in. The breathing in, if anything, can actually make you feel more anxious because you're breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, and actually if you're not getting the air out, it actually feels even worse. So when we're talking about take a breath, it's as much, if not more so, actually about the out breath. So we take a nice big breath in and it's really trying to get all that air out, and that's the bit that helps the nervous system calm down, is the exhale. So when I'm thinking about doing this kind of more formally, I try and do a breath in for 6 and out for 6, and that can be quite long if you're not used to doing sort of prolonged breaths. So obviously you just start with whatever works for you, and that's fine if you're sitting doing it as a sort of formal thing. But in that moment, in that traffic jam, when somebody's cut you up, or when the kids are driving you nuts, or your boss is giving you something else to do, just receive that other email of another task you have to get finished, then maybe just breathe out. Don't even worry about getting the breath in, just sigh it out, and that'll help. Because again, in that moment, we're just looking for that moment, we're just looking for that wee second or two before we respond. So try that as your first thing, is just taking that breath out. So let it sigh out, and longer than you probably feel you should, so you're really emptying your lungs, and then you'll naturally breathe back in, because your body's always going to make you breathe back in, obviously to keep you alive. Okay, so that's the first thing, is the breath, and the breath out is the key one there. And sort of tied into that, just as I mentioned there, is taking that moment. And what the breath does is it helps relax us, but it also gives us that moment before we respond. And what we want is to create that wee space, just to give us a second or two, rather than just rushing in and responding. So taking that breath out just gives you that second or two to find the space between the reaction and the response. Because what we don't want is something happening and poof, we all know how you can fire off at certain times if we don't take that wee second or two just to pause. So the breath gives you that pause. So that's the advantage of it as well. It actively calms your nervous system by exhaling, and it gives you that second or two just to pause, rather than just reacting straight away to whatever has happened that's causing us more stress. And then it can be good to let things out in some way. So obviously, depending on the situation, will depend on what you might want to do. So if you're in the car, then screaming or turn on the music and singing really loud, something like that can be good, just to get that, that feeling out. Because what we don't want is to be keeping everything inside. We're wanting to try and get things out and not be holding everything in. So obviously it might not be so appropriate if you're sitting in your office to, to scream or sing, depending on the work environment. But finding some sort of outlet is often a good thing. So thinking about what you could do in that moment. And again, you've taken that wee pause, you've breathed out, you've having the second or two of a pause. What can you then do? Is there some way you can then, is it squeezing a stress ball? Is it tensing your muscles and letting them relax? A couple of squeezes of the hands and then easing off. Something that's just, again, distracting you a wee bit from what's going on, and just trying to regulate things and let yourself know that you're safe, and not letting things escalate any further. And in keeping with that, the next thing, I suppose, is just to remind yourself that whatever it is will pass. and everything will pass, because nothing lasts forever. Despite how it might feel in the time, I think at different stages in your life when this thing's going on, you think this is never ending, this is just going to go on indefinitely, but nothing ever does. Nothing lasts forever, and everything will pass. So however awful and stressful and whatever it is that's going on, it will pass. It will pass. So reminding yourself of that. So you get your nice slow breath out, which gives you that pause. Then finding a way to, let the stress out, and reminding yourself that everything will pass, because nothing lasts forever. However awful it seems, however it seems that there's another thing, it will all pass. And then finally trying to, boost your mood a wee bit. So try and then find something funny. So that might then tie back into, if you're in the car or in the house or something, putting the music on and dancing about, or singing, or doing something like that. Or if you're at your work, maybe something a bit more appropriate than dancing around the office. But then trying to find something to lift your mood a wee bit again, just to bring things back up. Because whatever it is, as I say, it will pass. How awful it might not seem at the time, we know that nothing is going to last forever. So even if it is another email about something else you've got to do, another task you've got to do, another reminder about a day at the school that you've got to provide something for, or whatever it is, another WhatsApp group that's pinging off in your ear, try to find the funny thing. See if you can make it, lighten the mood. Oh, here we go again. Making something funny, make, whatever it is, something we sort of lightening the situation. Because obviously here we're talking about minor inconveniences, falling on from my week of minor irritations. So it's finding something just to give you that wee boost. So whether it's imagining whoever sent you the message in some sort of funny context, or what you might do if you met them in the street or something like that, something kind of funny that just lightens the mood a wee bit again. Okay, so we've done the breath, which gives you the pause. We're finding an outlet. Remind yourself that everything will pass, and then trying to lighten the mood a wee bit. Think of something funny, the situation, how can you make it a bit more, a bit less stressful, and try and see the sort of lighter side of things, because that helps us boost us all again, and that just gives messages of safety to your brain, because all the stress your brain interprets as danger signals, and we don't want that. We don't want your brain to think all these things are dangerous. You want to reassure your brain that actually these are minor things, and I'm okay and I'm safe. So by doing these wee steps that we've talked about there, that can all help just steady things down a wee bit, and reassure your brain that you're not in imminent danger of being eaten by a tiger or something like that. Okay, so that if you do nothing else, then try the breath. That's the kind of main one that I always use with everybody, whatever the situation. The breath's always a sort of key one. So remember, it's the out breath you're focusing on. Breathe out longer than you feel you probably need to, and that should really help give yourself that wee pause as well. So the breath's the one again, which really helps combine lots of things together. Okay, I shall leave you at that for now. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.